Have you ever heard of the Spanish Inquisition? Of course, you have. But what about the Portuguese Inquisition? It's a story just as harrowing, and in some ways, even more tragic. A tale of faith, betrayal, and a desperate fight for identity that spanned centuries. Today, we're uncovering the untold story of Portugal's forced Jewish conversions. A chapter of history that has been overlooked for far too long. Let's turn back the clock to the late 15th century. In 1492, a momentous event shook the Iberian Peninsula. Spain's Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, issued the Alhambra Decree, giving all Jews a terrible choice: convert to Christianity or be expelled. An estimated 100,000 to 120,000 desperate Jewish refugees poured over the border into neighboring Portugal, seeking safety. King John II of Portugal initially saw this as an opportunity. He allowed them in, but for a hefty price of tax. He promised them temporary refuge and ships to take them elsewhere. But this promise was a cruel illusion. When the time came, the ships never materialized for many, leaving thousands stranded. For those who couldn't pay the tax or leave in time, the king declared them as personal slaves. It was a brutal, dehumanizing act. But unbelievably, things were about to get worse. In 1496, a new king, Manuel I, ascended the throne. He wanted to marry the Spanish princess, Isabella of Aragon, to unite the Iberian crowns, but she came with a non-negotiable condition. Portugal must be cleansed of all Jews. King Manuel, unlike his Spanish counterparts, didn't actually want to expel the Jews. Why? Because the Jewish community was the backbone of Portugal's economy. They were the doctors, the financiers, the merchants, and the scholars driving the nation's golden age of discovery. Losing them would be an economic disaster. So, he devised a plan, a horrifying, cynical plan. Instead of expelling them, he would force them to convert. On December 5, 1496, he issued an edict. All Jews must convert to Catholicism or leave the country by October of the following year. But here's the sinister twist. He simultaneously blocked all ports of departure. They were trapped. In the spring of 1497, he ordered all Jewish children between the ages of 4 and 14 to be seized from their parents. Imagine the scene. Soldiers storming into homes, tearing screaming children from their parents' arms. These children were forcibly baptized and given to Christian families to be raised as Catholics. The goal was to break the parents' spirits, to blackmail them into converting to get their children back. Many parents, in their grief and desperation, chose to end their own lives and their children's lives rather than see them forcibly converted. It was an act of unimaginable cruelty. The remaining adults were herded to Lisbon, still believing they would be allowed to leave. Instead, they were dragged into churches where priests sprinkled them with holy water in mass ceremonies, declaring them Christians against their will. They were now new Christians, or as they were often called, conversos. But King Manuel wasn't a fool. He knew that a forced conversion wasn't a true one, so he made another promise. He declared that for a period of 20 years, no one could question the faith of these new Christians. He hoped that over a generation, they would assimilate and forget their Jewish heritage. He couldn't have been more wrong. In public, these conversos went to church and observed Catholic rituals. But in secret, in the hidden cellars and back rooms of their homes, they continued to practice Judaism. They became known as crypto-Jews or Marranos, a derogatory term meaning swine. They lit Shabbat candles in clay pots to hide the light, baked matzah for Passover in secret, and quietly recited Hebrew prayers passed down from generation to generation. It was a life of constant fear, a dual existence where a single misstep could mean death. The simmering resentment from the old Christians boiled over in 1506. During a time of plague and drought in Lisbon, a Dominican friar incited a mob, blaming the new Christians for the country's woes. For 3 days, a horrific pogrom swept through the city. Over 2,000 new Christians, men, women, and children were massacred, their bodies burned in public squares. This was the Lisbon Massacre, a brutal explosion of hatred that showed just how precarious their situation was. Even King Manuel was horrified by the violence he had inadvertently unleashed. He had the ringleaders punished, but the damage was done. The promise of a 20-year grace period was shattered. The era of secret faith and public persecution had truly begun. Finally, in 1536, after years of political maneuvering and pressure from Spain, the Portuguese Inquisition was officially established. This wasn't just an extension of the Spanish Inquisition. It was a uniquely Portuguese institution, and in many ways, it was even more relentless. Its sole purpose was to hunt down and eradicate any trace of Jewish practice among the new Christians. The Inquisition was a terrifying machine of paranoia and terror. Neighbors spied on neighbors. Children were encouraged to inform on their parents. Any slight deviation from Catholic orthodoxy could lead to an anonymous denunciation. Did you refuse to eat pork? You must be a Jew. Did you change into clean clothes on a Friday? A Jewish custom? Did you light a candle in your basement? You're practicing Judaism. On Syracuse, you were arrested by the Inquisition's agents, often in the dead of night. Your property was confiscated, leaving your family destitute. You would be taken to an Inquisition prison, where you could languish for months, even years, without knowing the specific charges against you or who had accused you. The goal was always a confession. To get it, they used systematic psychological and physical torture. Destrapado, where your hands were tied behind your back and you were hoisted into the air, dislocating your shoulders. The water cure, a form of waterboarding. These were not tools of justice. They were tools of terror, designed to break the human spirit. After a confession was extracted, the final judgment was delivered in a public ceremony called an auto da fe, or act of faith. This was a massive public spectacle. Prisoners were paraded through the streets wearing a special tunic called a sambanito, painted with flames to signify their heresy. Their sentences were read aloud to the cheering crowds. Punishments ranged from public flogging to imprisonment or service as a galley slave. But for those deemed unrepentant heretics, those who refused to confess or who relapsed into Judaism, the sentence was death. They were relaxed to the secular arm, a chilling euphemism for being handed over to the state authorities to be burned at the stake. Oberhit's nearly 300-year reign of terror. The Portuguese Inquisition held over 40,000 trials. Thousands were executed, and tens of thousands more had their lives utterly destroyed. It created a deep, festering wound in Portuguese society, a culture of suspicion that lasted for centuries. But even under this immense pressure, the spirit of the crypto-Jews did not die. They developed ingenious ways to preserve their identity. Prayers were disguised as folk songs. Jewish holidays were synced with Catholic ones. A special symbol, the cross of Belmonte, which looks like a normal cross, but has hidden markings representing Jewish tradition, became a secret identifier. The official end of the Portuguese Inquisition came in 1821, but its legacy lingered. For centuries, the descendants of the conversos continued to practice their hidden traditions, often without even fully understanding their Jewish origins. They just knew they were different, that their families had customs no one else did. In the 20th century, a remarkable rediscovery took place. Scholars and Jewish leaders began to find these isolated communities, particularly in places like Belmonte. In northern Portugal, they found people who had preserved a form of 5th-10th century Judaism for nearly 500 years in complete secrecy. It was an astonishing testament to the resilience of faith and cultural memory. Today, many of these communities have openly returned to Judaism, reconnecting with the global Jewish world. In 2015, Portugal, along with Spain, passed a law of return, offering citizenship to the descendants of the Jews they had so brutally persecuted centuries ago. It was a symbolic gesture, an attempt to atone for one of the darkest chapters in their history. The story of Portugal's forced conversions is a powerful reminder of the devastating consequences of intolerance, but it's also a story of incredible human endurance. It shows how identity and faith can survive against all odds, passed down in whispers and secrets, waiting for the day they can once again be brought into the light. It's a part of history we should never forget. Thank you for watching. If you found the story as moving and important as I did, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the hidden corners of history. See you next time.